Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I'll be discussing if the iPhone SE is still worth it in 2020. Stick to the end to find out. Let's get right into it. The iPhone SE 2016 was released on November 31st, 2016. It originally shipped with iOS 9 and is currently on the latest version of iOS 14. This was the last iPhone to ship with the iPhone 5 style design. As a result, it has a pretty small screen, although that does not really hinder the usability of it. It also has a headphone jack, which is actually a pretty good feature in 2020. It comes in multiple colors, but my personal favorite is the gold color, since it's pretty shiny, but not that reflective. It comes with a 4-inch Retina display with a resolution of 1136 times 640. It's a pretty good display, while not the best like the iPhone 11 Pro Max. It is still pretty good and images are pretty crisp, video is very good and high resolution, and while it isn't the highest resolution you can get on a smartphone, it's still pretty good and 100% usable, and you won't be complaining about seeing pixels at all because it is a Retina display. Other than that, it is pretty small, but that does not really hinder the usability. It comes with a home button that has the first generation of Touch ID. It is pretty cool to have Touch ID on it, so you don't have to always enter your passcode when you want to unlock your phone. However, since it's the first gen of Touch ID, it is a little bit slow, but other than that, it's fully usable. It isn't the same click as the iPhone 7 and up with the haptic home button, but it's still pretty good and fairly great. It isn't the best in class, but you can still get by with it pretty easily. The iPhone SE has a 1624 milliamp battery. You could get a day's use out of it if you don't use it that heavily, but normally if the battery is at 100% battery health, you'll probably have to charge at least once during the day. Although the battery will have probably significantly degraded, and if so, you might want to really look into getting it replaced, since it is possible for you to get less than 2 hours of battery life out of it if the battery health has significantly degraded. But other than that, it is a pretty reasonably sized battery and you could maybe get a day's use out of it. One cool feature about the iPhone SE is that it still has circular volume buttons. This is a pretty cool design, in my opinion, although it was dropped with the iPhone 6 and up, with this phone being the exception. It has an aluminum and glass antenna band design on the back. This is great in terms of durability and how it also looks, because in my opinion, this design is the greatest design ever, although your opinions will vary. This is also great for durability because aluminum will not shatter if you drop it. It'll probably dent or chip, but it won't shatter, and it isn't as worse as glass. Although on the top and bottom, you still have a bit of glass, so it might shatter, but it won't be as significant as some of the newer iPhones. On the back, it has a 12 megapixel camera that can record at 4K at 30 FPS at the maximum. On the front, it also has a 1.2 megapixel front camera, which is pretty decent and can record in 720p. It isn't the greatest, and I wouldn't recommend using it for anything other than maybe FaceTime if you really had to, but other than that, you really shouldn't use it unless you really had to. This iPhone only comes with a bottom speaker. The earpiece on the top does not make any noise. This was later changed on the iPhone 7 and up, where the bottom speaker and the earpiece would make sound together. Its specs are pretty okay in 2020. It has an A9 chipset and 2 gigabytes of RAM. While this is nothing crazy and overpowered in 2020, it's still pretty decent and you can play most modern games. Although you can and will experience frame drops every once in a while, it's still pretty useful and it's not slow by any means. And because of its specs, it is currently supported on the latest version of iOS 14. Also, the reason why my footage looks a bit weird is because the model I have right here of this iPhone SE has a slightly peeled off screen, so it is not necessarily fully touching the display, the housing, I mean. So yeah, the footage looks a bit wonky, so yeah, it's not the greatest, so I apologize. But other than that, it should look pretty good. Okay, back to the video. This iPhone sells for about 60 to 80 bucks on eBay. This is pretty cheap for an iPhone, but you have to consider that this iPhone is still pretty old and will probably not be supported past iOS 14. Maybe, by some chance, it could get iOS 15 in the future, but I don't think it'll go past that. So you have to keep that in mind that it will probably lose software support very soon. This was also the last iPhone to ship with a power button on the top of the device, not on the sides. This is because this iPhone is smaller than the 6 and 6S and up, and because of that, you don't need to have the power button on the side, and as a result, it's on the top, which, because of the fact that it's so small, it's actually a better placement than it would be on the side. So, is it still worth it in 2020? Yes. For the price you can pick it up, which is around $60 to $80, it gives you an outstanding value, because it'll probably get another year of software support. But even if it doesn't, it still holds up incredibly well, even in 2020. Its specs are nothing to laugh at, and it's pretty powerful, although not crazy flagship level. It can play most games and can do most tasks you'd want out of a phone. Although definitely it is a little small and the design is outdated by a little bit, it's still a very good phone. And if you find a good deal, I'd highly recommend getting it. And that was it. Thanks for watching the video, and make sure to like and subscribe. As always, see you next time. Bye.